Howdy folks, it's now 2016, a new year is here, and to be honest, we're still in the first season of this show. Well, they kind of were, but they were also sort of beginner videos for me. You know, trying to get the hang of reviewing. Yeah, that's right. Since we're in a new year now, I've decided to try something different. You know, give y'all watchers a little something out of the ordinary. I'm going to review a movie, and not just any movie, but a quaint little sci-fi B-movie from the 80s. Nope, nah, and no. We're gonna review the movie Eliminators. I figure I already did 2 reviews of music and 2 reviews of video games. It's time I try my hand on movies. I am, after all, gonna review anime in the future, so I have to start somewhere. I know. I'm aware. Hey, it takes money to make that kind of stuff. Whoa now. Did I not create that universal video game doggy controller for you? Mr. Has No Opposable Thumbs? And besides, most of the games that I own have multiplayer options. I'm with you on that, Pound Pup. Let's sit back, relax, and bathe in some good old 80s B-movie goodness.
That music and intro is so 80s. Speaking of intros, this one may look a bit familiar to some of you viewers out there. And if I have to spell it out for y'all, well...
If you were to watch this film, you too would start to get the same feeling that the creators decided to amalgamate a whole bunch of robot stuff into one film.
Anyway, we get a little backstory into our main hero. Apparently he sucked as a pilot, so his plane crashed. Then we get some random scenes of these Roman legionaries here, who really have nothing to do with the story. These legionnaires serve a different purpose for the film's plot and for our main hero.
Whom, by the way, has 2 names, John and Mandroid. So for the sake of this review, we're just going to call him Mandroid. Because, in my opinion, that name just sounds cooler.
So we cut to this laboratory setting here where we're introduced to our main villain and his lab assistant. The main villain, whom is named Abbott Reeves, by the way, is what steals the show for me. They really wrote his character well. He's so evil, and yet he's having so much fun with his role that you can't help but love this guy. That, and he kind of reminds me of Dr. Wily from the original Mega Man games. Hell, he even looks a little like him. So we see Dr. Reeves and his assistant, called Takata, bring in a time machine.
Yeah, a time machine.
So the machine is bought back through time and space, and Dr. Reeves and Takata go over to question the Mandroid about his trip. Apparently, he doesn't remember anything, but he's got a souvenir for the good doctor.
First century BC. The Roman centurion shield, no less. Magnificent.
So after that and a little bit more dialogue, we get this scene right here.
That will actually be explained later on.
So apparently Dr. Reeves has no more use for the mandroid, and he orders Takata to disassemble him.
Disassemble? Dead!
Takata is obviously against this idea, so he goes and informs the mandroid of what Dr. Reeves has planned for him. It's here that they both decide to leave Dr. Reeves' compound. This is where we're introduced to my favorite gadget of the mandroids, the mobile unit. I don't know who came up with this idea for the film, but whoever did just made what's already an awesome movie an even more awesome movie.
Maybe it's because he kind of looks like Mega Man with tank treads for legs. Maybe it's because no one has ever implemented something like that into a film. Or maybe it's because that is fucking awesome.
So as Mandroid and Takata are making their escape from the compound, they're stopped by Dr. Reeves' hired guns.
How could you turn against me, Takata? Drop your weapon at once. Mandroid, activate your laser and kill Dr. Takata.
No!
You cannot resist your programming, Mandroid.
No! No!
Unfortunately, Takata gets shot by one of the hired guns, but before he kills over, he tells Mandroid to seek out a Colonel Hunter. We then get a little bit of action. And let me tell y'all folks, this movie does not skimp on the action.
Give me that night rifle! Now I got you, you tin can son of a bitch. You got him, right? You got him! He ain't down yet! Shit.
Well, when you give someone like Mandroid an implausible way of moving around, you're just begging for him to find an implausible way of getting around.
Speaking of Mandroid's mobile unit, he decides to dump it a few miles away from the compound and put his regular legs back on. This is one of the very few gripes that I have with Eliminators. The mobile unit was such a cool idea, but it's not used that often in the film for some reason. Maybe it's because the thing is quite big and bulky, so they figured that Mandroid would have trouble moving around. Maybe it was also hard to control as a prop.
Spoiler warning, folks. We will see more of the mobile unit in action towards the end of the film.
Anyway, we cut to Colonel Hunter's lab, and we're introduced to her as well as her little robot buddy Spot. Colonel Hunter is a pretty awesome character, if I do say so myself. She's strong, pretty, and smart. Also, and this is just my opinion, without her, I don't think this movie would be neither as appealing nor as strong. Spot is alright, but what keeps him from being an awesome character is the fact that he sounds like R2-D2 from Star Wars, and that to me is hella annoying.
Don't believe me? Take a look. See?
Anyway, we get a little exposition from Mandroid about himself and Dr. Reeves. Apparently, Dr. Reeves is supposed to be dead, but he's been keeping himself alive through grafting and transplants. Don't ask me how that's supposed to work. It's Hollywood, just roll with it. We also find out that Dr. Reeves stole Hunter's robotics designs. And apparently, that's how Mandroid became who he is.
This whole lab is funded by the Reeves Foundation. Now you tell me that Reeves is still alive. And what's more, he's stolen my designs and bastardized them. No offense.
None taken.
Hunter decides to do a bit of maintenance on Mandroid after that little hiccup, and it's here that we get a flashback of Mandroid fighting those Legionaries from the beginning of the film.
Don't worry, folks, it's only one of 2 flashbacks. We won't be seeing him relive his epic battle with the Roman Empire. Shut up, bunghole.
After that, Mandroid tells Hunter that he's going back to Mexico to find his plane and kill Dr. Reeves. Hunter wants to go with him. Mandroid says no. Hunter says that she wants to find out what Dr. Reeves is doing with her research. Mandroid still says no, and he starts shooting sparks again.
You need a full-time mechanic, my friend.
After that realization, he decides to bring her along, and they head down Mexico way. While in a motel, they find out that they need to hire a boat as well as a guide. Here's where we enter my favorite character of this film, Harry Fontana. This guy is just a barrel of fun. He's so badass that he actually ends up being delightfully comical. Anyway, so Fontana is a riverboat captain, and he's not without a little bit of competition out there.
She has a name. Okay.
So, Hippo Lady here is under the impression that Fontana is undercutting her, because in her words,
"Then how come is it I got me the best damn boat on this river and I still can't catch me no business?"
To which Fontana replies,
I don't know. Why don't you look in the mirror?
"Hoo, burn."
After that little pissing contest, Hunter enters the bar, and it doesn't take long for everyone in there to start eyeing her like she was Marilyn Monroe. She says she needs a boat and a guide, and as typical for cheesy 80s sci-fi action films like this, everyone in the bar starts to rumble. Hey, if I had the job that Fontana and these other dudes have, and this was the only action I was seeing, I'd do what they're doing too. Fontana, however, uses his noggin instead of his muscles and waits until Hippo Lady is the last one standing so he can do this.
Harry Fontana. King of the Wild Frontier.
Fontana is then hired to take Hunter and Mandroid up the river towards the crash site. But being the man that he is, Fontana has a feeling that there is something more to it than just going to a plane wreck. But before Hunter and Mandroid can explain why they're heading to the wreck, Hippo Lady has a score to settle.
God damn it!
Up, and it looks like she's bought some friends with her too. But as I've said before, Fontana will use his head before resorting to his fists.
I saw this in a movie once.
Oh, you mean this film?
There's a saying in England, where there's smoke, there's fire.
It's cool to see that Fontana's a Bond fan.
But apparently that wasn't enough to keep Hippo Lady away. And as bad luck would have it, Fontana's boat breaks down.
Your old bucket finally give it up? What about here, lamb chop? Bayou Betty won't leave you stranded for piranha bait.
Betty, I got a contract with these people.
You turn them fares over, Fontana, or I swear I'll blow your top half clear to Texas. I'll count to 5.
That could take all day.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Betty, look!
What the hell?
After that little debacle, Hunter fixes the boat and they're on their way. Fontana obviously has questions after that stunt, so Mandroid finally shows what he really is to the guy. Ah, look at that. It's that rotund fella from the beginning shootout scene.
Fun fact.
If that guy looks familiar to some of y'all out there, that's because he's the same guy from Terminator 2 that had his shotgun as well as his sunglasses taken from him by Arnold. Now that Hunter and Mandroid have made it this far up the river, they decide, well, Mandroid more specifically decides, to give Fontana the boot.
All right. Okay. You're firing me? Great. I'm out of here.
I'd be kind of pissed off too if they decided to do that to me.
So while standing in his boat, obviously still a little steamed, that rotund guy, whose name is Ray, and his yes man have caught up with Fontana, and they want to know where Mandroid is. Thankfully, Fontana has a heart of gold and gives Ray and his yes man a dose of CO2 before taking off up the river to find Mandroid and Hunter. Speaking of those two, after a little trek through the jungle and with some help from Spot, they finally come across the remnants of what was Mandroid's plane. And a few of you out there might be wondering, why the hell is this wreck so damn important? Well, it's because Mandroid is trying to find his way back to Dr. Reeves' compound.
Which begs the question, why? He didn't seem to have a problem finding his way out and away from the compound, so why is he having trouble finding a way back? It seems like it would be a no-brainer, but minor gripe.
So after looking at the wreck for a couple minutes, Mandroid now wants to make his way to the compound. Hunter, on the other hand, wants to investigate the remnants of the plane to find out who Mandroid was before becoming a cyborg. He of course says no, seriously, it's like his favorite word to say. She doesn't take no for an answer and decides to inspect the wreck for herself. She's a big girl though. I'm sure nothing dangerous will— oh shit, she shouldn't have done that. Mandroid does try to keep the wreck from sinking further, but there's only so much he can do. Fortunately, Fontana shows up right in the nick of time to save our heroine.
You know, you really shouldn't call a man trying to make an honest living a pirate. Go for it.
So Fontana rejoins Hunter and Mandroid, and they're off to Dr. Reeves' compound. And it doesn't take long for this group of three to become two once again. Apparently, Mandroid doesn't have that good of balance, and he as well, Spot, fall into the river.
There's a good reason for it, though. Y'all folks will see soon enough.
Cutting back to Dr. Reeves, I guess the doc knew that Mandroid would eventually come back to settle the score, so he built his own Mega Man arm cannon. Only his is cooler. For one thing, it's red, and it shoots a Tesla coil.
What the hell? Don't, Mr. Reeves. Please, put me down. I can find the Mandroid again. I swear it.
If you fail me again,
Yeah, 'cause death will always teach your employees not to fuck up on the job. Mandroid and Spot eventually resurface from the river, and they both decide to go look for Hunter and Fontana. Speaking of those two, apparently Fontana's boat is broken down again, and he's been forced to pull the damn thing. So he pulls the boat for a little bit until falling into a Viet Cong-like underwater trap. It doesn't take long either to see the culprits who laid the trap in the first place. Yep, cavemen. Brought back by Dr. Reeves through the time machine. Why the hell would he bring caveman back to the modern era? Your guess is as good as mine.
Remember how I told you folks how there was a reason for Mandroid falling into the river? Well, here's the reason in this scene right here.
It was also we could meet this character. This is Kuji, our ninja for Eliminators. Because what's a cheesy 80s action sci-fi B movie without a ninja? So it turns out that Kuji is Takada's son, and after hearing about his father's death at the hands of Dr. Reeves, he joins Mandroid's party. Just in time too, it seems, because it looks like Hunter and Fontana are on these cavemen's menu.
Look, I'd just like to say I think you're a hell of a woman.
What?
Would you kiss me goodbye? Put this in the fire.
takes care of them.
After Coochie and Mandroid scare the caveman away, the team,
which I think it's safe for me to call them the Eliminators now,
decide to hop aboard a raft. But it looks like the cavemen aren't finished with our heroes just yet, and they start shooting arrows at them.
Hold on.
They can't catch us now. Slow down.
I can't. Malfunction. Hold on. We're gonna hit.
Then, after all is said and done, Fontana uses probably one of the most memorable lines in this movie.
What is this anyway? Some kind of goddamn comic book? We got robots. We got cavemen. We got kung fu. Well, that's it. All right? I quit.
Yeah, first he's fired, then he quits. I don't know if that was the writers trying to be funny or serious. Thankfully, Fontana isn't really quitting, and the Eliminators come across the long-lost mobile unit. Which means that it ain't gonna be too long before another action scene. They send Spot out to pinpoint where Dr. Reeves' compound is, and then...
Split up!
Well, it turns out that Ray and his yes man have brought along a few other badniks to help fight the Eliminators, and it also looks like they're driving three-wheelers on loan from Mad Max. Don't worry, there's a reason he did that. What better shield against Dr. Reeves' thugs than something that the Doctor himself created?
John! Over here!
I'll get you, you scrapyard son of a bitch.
Night has fallen now, and we get this somewhat sad yet very awkward scene right here.
Nora, I want you to dismantle me.
What are you talking about?
The one thing that kept me alive was the desire to kill Abbott Reeves. But his death won't make me whole again. I'm not a man. I'm a killing machine with no past and no future. I destroy myself, but my programming would allow that.
I saw the way you looked at that photograph of your wife and kid.
No, Hunter. It would never work out.
Something tells me that that woman has spent a little too much time around machines.
Anyway, Spot returns from finding out where Dr. Reeves is at, but it turns out the doc tinkered with him a bit.
Oh, no!
He's not wired for that. Spot! Spot, power off. Power off!
Come on.
Consider this a warning. Turn back now, or die.
So, after that little tidbit, Spot, with his dying beeps, gives the Eliminators the location of the compound. Mandroid decides to go in the front door, whilst Coochie, Hunter, and Fontana decide to take the more subtle approach to entering.
I'd understand if you stayed back.
You think I came this far just to cop out in the ninth inning? Let's do it.
There you go, Hunter. Now that would work. Now that our heroes are in Dr. Reeves' compound, the final and probably best action scene in this entire film plays out.
Junkyard.
But then who's to show up but Dr. Reeves himself, who seems to have went through a major cosmetic makeover.
Your champion is defeated. And so now are you.
He's alive. Don't touch the web, it's charged. Let go, you'll burn up!
Now, some of you out there are probably wondering why that had to happen. Well, besides giving the film a bit of a dramatic touch, Mandroid said himself that he wanted to die, and I can't say that I blame him.
Anyway, our heroes make it into the inner sanctum of the compound where Dr. Reeves plans to go back to ancient Rome and become the new Caesar. However, the Eliminators are just a tad too late. But then Fontana, in his infinite badassness,
I think you did it. You've sent him back to 435 million BC. Abbott Reeves is the ruler of nothing.
And that was Eliminators, folks. And it gets an E for excellent.
the main hero may be a bit one-dimensional, but he's surrounded by other more interesting characters that it more than balances it out. The film is chock full of action, and the special effects in this film are pretty damn good, considering the fact that this was a B-movie. But it should be known that this B-movie isn't for everyone. It's quite cheesy, and it comes off as very comic bookish. Though I think all of you sci-fi lovers out there, hell, all you movie lovers out there for that matter, I think y'all should give it a watch, at least once, and you never know. It may just suit your pleasure.
Well, everyone, Shasta and I are done now, but join us again in another Redneck adventure. Goodbye, folks. And y'all come back now, alright?
It's been so long since I've been gone. Another day might be too long for me. I'm traveling around, I've had my fill of broken dreams and dirty tears. A concrete jungle surrounding me. Many nights I've slept out in the streets. I paid my dues and I changed